Let's welcome back our Line Opinion panelists one final time this week. Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham last week called on the State Investment Council to immediately evaluate the state's portfolio and divest all state resources to anything tied to the Russian government. The governor's office estimates that's just about $8 million. Is this a common sense move for us, considering the atrocities, of course, Ed, we're seeing in Russia right now, Russia carry out in Ukraine right now? Everybody has an urge to do something. I'm interested in your opinion on the governor's move here.
Gene, you're absolutely right. I think we all agree that there's such atrocities happening to the citizens of Ukraine, and it's a very sad situation. Mm-hmm. The move to divest investments from Russia, you always maybe have to step back. We all want to do something. We all feel that what can we do to hopefully make a difference. But when we talk about economics, I think sometimes we have to take a look at what we may be creating through some of our decisions, and where do you draw the line? Where's the line in the sand? For example, there are countries across the world who have very poor human rights records. I mean, there's China who just full of these human rights issues. And at what point do you say we are no longer going to do business with bad players out there? Where is that line? Mm-hmm. And there's also the issue of economic diplomacy. But maybe we need to take a look at what that can cause. I know we're trying to get President Putin's attention, but what sort of impact is that having on the citizens and the innocent citizens in Russia? And I know that statement may be somewhat controversial. We're trying to get through Putin through his citizens, but are we creating some other issues there that we haven't thought about? Again, we all want to do something, and I think we all are trying to do something, but maybe just think about what impact some of our decisions have on other people, what other ill effects we can have on other innocent people. And it's just something to look at and something to think about when making some of these decisions.
Yeah, interesting. Julianne, we just heard from the executive director of the Foundation for Open Government. If I had to bet, most people had no idea our state had $8 million tied up in Russia, or that the State Investment Council manages about $36 billion overall. I know you know this, but should information and motivations behind these investments be more available to the public?
I don't think it could hurt. You're probably not going to catch me saying we should keep more things secret from the public.
Right.
I do think that it's a question of awareness, and it's also a question of the understanding of the timeline. The Santa Fe Reporter has covered divestment efforts on a number of fronts, particularly with the New Mexico Educational Retirement Board.
Yes.
You had teachers who were saying, we don't want our retirement money invested in private prisons, for example. Mm-hmm. We've also seen the New York State pension system and Washington, D.C. also divest from fossil fuel investments in their pension funds. And I think this is it's a reaction to people really wanting to exert control. We have very little control over lots of things, and being able to say, well, I don't want my money to support X, Y, and Z somehow seems to make people feel better. But I do agree with Ed that the consequences of that are much more complex. We've got, in the last couple of days, a lot of corporations across the globe are saying we're not going to provide services or sell products to Russia. You have a push to change entertainment schedules for fine arts performers from the country. You have, in Santa Fe here, we had a local business that pulled the Russian vodka from the shelves, but then when we wanted to write a story about it, they didn't want to get tied up in the politics and go on the record. We had a gallery on Canyon Road called the Russian Gallery, which is now no longer called that.
Oh boy.
So this idea of how cancel culture and real economic sanctions and real global security issues all interplay. I think none of us are the foreign policy experts that we would like to be on social media.
Mm-hmm. Michael, as you know, President Biden officially called for the banning the import of Russian oil. We've got some pretty high gas prices going on, and the president says paying more at the pump, quote, it's the cost of freedom. Defending freedom is going to cost, is the exact quote. That same day, Governor Lujan Grisham joined a call from other Democratic governors calling on Congress to repeal the federal gas tax to help out consumers. Smart move for Washington if they considered this?
Well, I guess what I'd have to say is that it's the first, in terms of the Congress and the president, it's the first time that I think everybody's gotten behind something in recent history, considering the Democrats and Republicans are coming together kumbaya on this one. One can only hope that it would carry over to some of the legislation that's already pending, where they have failed to act. And I think that, there's a short-term picture and there's a longer-term picture, and clearly people with greater expertise in economics and people maybe who have their own trust funds. I don't happen to be a trust fund baby, so I've got much less to worry about. But it just is. The other thing is, compared to the rest of the world in terms of our access to gas and transportation, in terms of personal vehicles, there are clearly a whole host of people that are impacted in different ways. But one of the things, you have to look at what people drive. If somebody's driving this huge truck and they can afford it, and the insurance and everything else that goes with it, well, maybe they can afford the gas to put in it, because vehicles if you want to look at things, what does it take to create a huge vehicle versus a smaller vehicle? What does it take to keep that, maintain that, and versus a smaller vehicle or electric cars now? There's so many ways you can look at this picture, but if somebody wants to drive a big truck, well, great. But the downside is you got a big truck, it uses a lot of gas, and some of them need that for work. But a lot of people drive these things just because they like driving something that's huge.
Well, that's part of it. Julianne, we're under a minute here, but I'm just curious how this situation might fit under the governor's hydrogen plans. Is there something here that might either upset those plans or goose those plans along?
No, I don't know that I really have a great answer for that. But I do want to piggyback what Michael said, that there are other ways to express your distaste for high gas prices, and there are other ways to make choices about transportation and how you get from point A to B. And so maybe Bike to Work for Ukraine will be a slogan that catches on this summer.
Interesting.
How about a horse?
Oh, the horse. I'm with the horse. I'm with Michael there. Thanks again to our line panel, as always. Hey, this week. Sure, please, Ed, go ahead. Yeah.
Just one final thought.
Yeah.
This may present an opportunity. And so we need to think about this situation as an opportunity to address some of the things that our community and society has been concerned about.
That's right. Thank you for getting that in. That's actually very good words there. Hey, be sure to let us know what you think about any of the topics our line folks covered on our Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram pages.